Hello, and thank you for tuning in to a Trip Hacks DC live walk. My name is Rob. I'm a tour guide and the founder of Trip Hacks DC, and today I am in the Cleveland Park neighborhood, though I will be walking the red line towards downtown and taking you along with me. So, this is a live stream. If you're watching this on the replay, hello, thanks for tuning in. And after you're done watching the video, leave a comment and let me know if there was anything interesting that you saw, or if you have ever done something like this, walking above a metro line or a subway line, and what you thought about it. And if you are tuned in live, then I will say good morning and go ahead and say hello in the live chat. Let me know where in the world you are tuned in from. I did start today about 10 minutes early. I did advertise this to start at 11 a.m. local time, but because it is a bit wet out here today, as you can probably see behind me, decided to start a little bit early. So I'm sure people will filter in over the course of the next hour or so, but I will say good morning to Dave Wheeler from a 38-degree California Central Coast. That is quite a bit colder than it is here right now, Dave. I'll tell you all about the weather as we go along. And Jamie Smith, hi from Cleveland, Ohio, I assume. Welcome, Jamie. And Gina T, haven't seen you in a while there, Gina. Hello from Utah. So let me go ahead and flip around so we can begin our walk. Now, this is the Cleveland Park Metro station right in front of me here. I got off this station a few minutes ago before I started, and so I will be showing you the Cleveland Park Station, Woodley Park Station, and Dupont Circle Station as we do the walk. But before we do that, I thought I would show you Sam's Park and Shop, which might not look like anything of particular interest, but this is historic. You might consider this to be a strip mall. Maybe that's the word you use. Let me know if you use a different term where you live other than strip mall, but I think that's probably the most common one. But this is special because this was the first one of its kind. So if you have one of these in the suburb where you live, or the city where you live, or the town, it probably started thanks to Sam's Park and Shop. So even though it doesn't look much different from any of the other thousands of them that surely exist in the world, it was one of the first, and so that makes it historic. All right, we will begin walking. And Gary Sorensen, good to see you, my friend, from a cold Oxford, Wisconsin. 7 degrees. Is that Fahrenheit? 7 degrees. That's way below freezing, if it is. And Bobo from Sterling, Virginia. Good to see you there, Bobo. Small Stuff Big Family from St. Louis came to DC in October and had a blast. Very happy to hear that. Always happy to hear that people had a good time on their visit. And so, trying to decide which side of the street I want to go on. I think I'm going to go on this side of the street because it has recently closed off the old parking area, and you can see a nice little spot to walk here. So this is Connecticut Avenue. I see some folks already know which street I'm on, and the old Uptown movie theater on the other side of the street sadly has been closed. This was my favorite spot to come for a movie back in the before times. Now the Uptown, it's a single screen theater, so there's only one screen in there. It's not like your multiplex at the mall or anything like that. So they only played one thing at a time, and they tended to play the big Hollywood blockbusters. So you could see Star Wars in there. You could see a lot of the superhero movies in there, whatever the big Hollywood blockbuster was at the time. But sadly, they have been closed for a while now. There are rumors that Landmark Theaters is in negotiation to take it over, so we shall see. It was part of the AMC. It was an AMC before it closed, but it has been many things over the years, as you might imagine. Christian, good to see you there, says this is great. Glad you think so. And yes, this is Connecticut Avenue. Gina T says that Target looks tiny. It's one of the urban Targets, so it's I guess it's a somewhat new concept for Target. I actually haven't been in that one, but I have been in the one in Roslyn in Arlington, Virginia. And so I don't really know how to describe it. It's kind of like it's like a big CVS almost, or like a big Walgreens. So it's definitely not as big as your, giant suburban Targets, but people seem to like it because when you need something, you can pop in there and get it. So if you've been to a small Target like that, one of those urban Targets, let me know. That Target, before it became a Target, I believe it was a PetSmart or a Petco, can't remember, a pet store, but it was a very large pet store, and it's actually in the basement level, so it's probably not as small as it looked on camera, because to get in there, you would go in the doors, down the elevator, and then you'd be inside the Target. And Small Stuff Big Family, thank you for the super chat, my friends. Very much appreciate that. Okay, let's catch up on the comments here. Veronica Jude. Loved going to a hippie shop at the end of the Red Line. Any idea what it was called? I don't do too much shopping at hippie shops, so I'm not sure what that might be. And Marcus G. from a wet Stavanger? Sorry, I'm mispronouncing that, I'm sure. England. Sounds like a lot of parts of the world are cold and wet today. Not here in Washington, D.C. It is very warm. And Rebecca from Manhattan, New York City. Welcome, Rebecca. One of my favorite places to travel is New York City. And I will have a podcast episode coming up, probably in about a month, about tips from my travels. So sometimes people ask me, hey, as a tour guide, do you have any special tips for traveling? And I do. I just have been reluctant to make any content about them because I never really wanted Trip Hacks DC to be about me. But because it has been requested, that will be coming soon, probably in about a month if everything stays on schedule. So, New York City, one of my favorite places to go. The Average Joe wants to know more about Sam's Park and Shop. Sadly, I don't know the details offhand. But if you do some basic Google research, I'm sure you can dig up some fascinating stuff about Sam's Park and Shop. And Christian, Happy New Year from New York. Happy New Year to you, Christian, and everyone else who is tuned in. And Jay Stewart, thank you for tuning in, my friend. Jay, I timed this one for you so that you could watch the Washington football team game afterwards. Watch them lose to the Eagles today, if you wish. Now, this is a bridge crossing over Rock Creek Park. So I'll take you to the edge here. I won't stick my phone over the edge, because I don't want to have any accidents, but that is the Rock Creek Park down there. One of the biggest parks, one of the biggest urban parks in the country. I know we've got a few folks tuned in from New York City, and New York City has the most famous urban park, Central Park. But Rock Creek Park is about 3 times as big as Central Park, as far as square footage, square mileage, however you want to measure that. But it doesn't have a lot of the same attractions per se, and stuff's more spread out, so it doesn't get quite as many visits as Central Park, even though it is bigger. Dan, good morning from Baltimore. Good to see you there, Dan. And MKE says they have them in Chicago. And Peter Hedberg, tuning in from a snow-covered north of Sweden. Welcome, Peter. Have you been traveling at all lately, Peter? I know you were itching to get back to the U.S., and I think maybe you were going to try to do that next year, or this year. It's 2022 already. So let me know. And Jay Stewart will be watching the Caps game instead. Do you get the Caps games over there in the UK? I assume you get the NFL because that's very popular, and the NFL has been trying to expand into Europe, but curious to know if you can watch the NHL over there too, or maybe you just watch it online. All right, Gina T coming in with the Google research. Sam's Park and Shop opened in 1931 per Google. Thank you for that, Gina. What's the weather like in Utah today, Gina? Do we have snow-covered mountains out there? I'm not sure the exact temperature. It was about 60 degrees Fahrenheit, 60, when I went to walk my dog this morning. around 8 or 9 o'clock. So it is a very warm day. If I flip the camera around, you can see this is not the winter setup. I've got the rain jacket because it is raining today. I've got the Trip Hacks DC baseball hat. So no winter hat, no gloves today. Very warm, but it may snow. See, the meteorologists on Twitter are really kind of freaking out about the various models, depending on which model you follow. There may be nothing, or there might be the most snow tonight in a few years. Now, it's 60 degrees out here, so I'm not a meteorologist, but I happen to think with the ground as warm as it is, it's probably not going to stick, at least not right away, right? If you know anything about snow, chime in the chat and let me know if I'm right or if I'm wrong. All right, try to be careful here. This is the zoo coming up here on the left. Last time I tried to do a live stream in the zoo was an utter disaster. Had no signal inside there, so I will not be attempting to go in today. If you tuned into that zoo live stream, let me know. I'm curious how many people suffered through that with me. Now, an important thing when you come to the zoo, one of my friends who is a big zoo enthusiast reminded me of this. Always get your drinks and your coffee before you enter the zoo. I think I'm going to try to cross up here. Take a peek at the other side of the street. So either make sure you stop at CVS before you get on the metro, pick up your bottled waters. This Frozen Yo place right here, they sell bottled waters for 98 cents. So if you forgot, there's still hope. You can pop in there and get a bottle of water for 98 cents. This bakery right here is also very good if you want some food. There used to be a bar up here called the Zoo Bar. It was a bit of a dive, and that has been gone for quite a while, unfortunately. But there's actually some decent things on Connecticut Avenue right here across from the zoo. Now, the last time I was up here, I was taking footage, B-roll footage for an upcoming video, and I was taking video footage of the Starbucks, and I really upset some guy sitting outside who demanded to know why I was taking a video of him. And so I explained I really only cared about taking a video of the Starbucks because, like my friend said, you want to make sure you get your coffee before you go into the zoo, because I don't know if they don't sell it in there or it's very expensive, but she told me always make sure you get your coffee out here before you go in. Okay, let me catch back up on the comments here. Okay, Peter Hedberg is booked for New York in June. All right, excellent. Hopefully that works out for you. And saw the Falcons win in London. Yeah, the NFL is trying to expand into Europe, so I know they played some games in London. Have they gone anywhere else besides London? I guess the question is it getting big over there? It seems like we've got some Europeans who are also NFL fans, so maybe it's working. And Jay Stewart says, we have a channel that streams some NHL games. That's interesting. I suppose that makes sense. We have some channels here that stream Premier League games and such, so no reason why that wouldn't be the case the other way around. And MKE, 15 and snow in Chicago. Well, it is Chicago. That's what it's known for in the winter. Cold, wind, and snow. And Gina T says in Utah, cold, 12 degrees, snow-covered mountains, but blue skies. Yeah, that's nice. January and February in DC, you typically get a sky that looks exactly like this. Gray everywhere, which is also why I don't have the sunglasses today. I often skip the sunglasses in the winter because it's just gray skies. And Jay Stewart was also at that game. Look at that. Probably tens of thousands of people at that game, but 2 of them are tuned in to the live stream today. And Rebecca, love the Hotel Willard. The 1-bedroom room, perfect, but the food not too good for me. Yeah, a lot of the hotels, their food is a little lacking at the moment because, you know, they're trying to get the hotel staffed, and usually the food stuff is the lowest priority. So a lot of hotels you're probably not going to find the best food at the moment. But the Willard is the best, in my opinion, for location. It is really kind of an unbeatable location over there right by the White House. All right, and Bat Dog says in Utah it always gets super warm before a big snow. Interesting. And Dan asks me about Rock Creek Park. Have I hiked any parts of it? Yes, I have. Now, I'm not a big hiker per se, at least not in the woods. I'm obviously do a lot of walks around the city up here at street level, but I have walked parts of Rock Creek Park, the parts up way uptown near where you can ride horses and do stuff like that. Those are probably what I would recommend if you want to do a true in the woods hike. The spots down by like Georgetown, kind of over here by the zoo, those are more popular because they're closer to where people live. But if you want to do it something that's like way deep in the woods, I would go up near where the horses are. And Stephen C. says the 7-Eleven recently closed. Never seen that happen before. 7-Eleven is weird because my understanding, and I could be wrong about this, so please anyone chime in if I'm wrong about this. My understanding about 7-Eleven is that the 7-Eleven Corporation doesn't stop franchisees from opening very close to another franchisee, so that's why sometimes you'll have two 7-Elevens extremely close to each other because there's no rule that says, you know, a new 7-Eleven has to be a mile away or a half mile away or whatever. And so I feel like a lot of 7-Elevens also because 7-Eleven, it kind of, nowadays, like CVS is basically a convenience store like 7-Eleven, and there are a million of those in DC, so I don't think it surprises me per se, but yeah, there used to be a 7-Eleven up there that is no more. All right. Small stuff, big family. When we went to the zoo, it was a rainy day and practically had it to ourselves. That is a worthwhile trip hack. And this is something I learned when I was a teenager. Like if you wanted to go to Six Flags or you wanted to go to Busch Gardens, the best days to go were the days when it rained in the morning. So if it rained at like 10 a.m., that would be a great day to go because a lot of people, they just write off the entire day. They say it's too rainy today and I'm not gonna go. So a day like today, it's rainy. Sunday is typically a very busy day for the zoo, but my hunch is that because a lot of people, they look out the window, they say, today's not a good zoo day, today's an indoor kind of day, they're gonna skip it. So today actually might be a decent day for the zoo. Evan Cortez almost got in a fight like that. I assume you mean with the people demanding to know why you're taking their video, even though you're not. Yeah, that was awkward. That was super awkward. And I don't even have that footage anymore because that was one of the rare times when I forgot to download the clips from my memory card and I lost the footage anyway. So that guy's off the hook. I don't even have his footage anymore. And Small Stuff Big Family says some of the animals were hiding from the rain, but the otters were having a blast. LOL. I think that's pretty funny. It's funny how the different animals react, especially when there's rain or snow. Like some of the most popular photos of the pandas, the giant pandas, are them playing in the snow. All right, and Evan Cortez says the NFL in London is more like a curiosity. That's interesting. And Dave Wheeler says this looks like a pretty nice area to live. Yes, this is definitely a scenic area. And there's a lot of big apartment buildings around here, so it's actually an area where you can fairly easily find a place to live. Now, this used to be, I need to update the hotels guide. I need to update the hotels guide for 2022 because this used to be the Marriott Woodley Park, and it was a giant hotel right next to the metro. And then back over here, back in the distance, there's the, well, I think that's part of the hotel too, but off in the distance, you can't really see it from here. There's an Omni Hotel, another big conference hotel. The Marriott, they closed, and they said they would be converting the entire building from a hotel into a place to live. So it is a historic, fancy building, but no longer a hotel. So if you want to stay up here by the zoo, the Omni is now really the only choice over here. So I'm not sure if I will continue to recommend this area as a place to stay just because there's only one hotel basically now. But if you've stayed up here, let me know, leave a chat. I'm curious to know if you liked staying up here by the zoo. All right, Peter Hedberg says 60,000 NFL fans at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in London. So I feel like that sounds like a lot, but also a lot of NFL stadiums in the U.S. can hold many more than 60,000. And let's see, Rock Sheath, sorry if I mispronounced that. Me and my girlfriend were in D.C. last month. Trip hacks helped a lot. Glad to hear it. Thanks for tuning in. I'm happy to hear that. And Kanisha, good morning from, can't remember where you're tuned in from. Good morning and Happy New Year and Happy Sunday to everyone. And Ryan says, in my neighborhood there are 2 7-Elevens in a 1 mile radius. So that is my understanding, is that if you apply to open a 7-Eleven, they won't even ask if there are any other 7-Elevens nearby, which can lead to situations where a lot of them are competing for the same business. But if anyone is a franchise expert, let me know if I'm wrong about that. All right, lots of discussion about the NFL in Europe, something I'm no expert on. And Kanisha says, I used to stay at that particular Marriott all the time when I visited DC, so that's good to know. I guess you like staying up in this area. It's a little bit different. And we have arrived at Metro stop number 2. This is the Woodley Park station. Now, this is the station that has the word zoo on the station name, but if you have watched Trip Hacks DC videos, you know this is not the station I use when I go to the zoo. And the reason is because when you get off at the Cleveland Park station, the walk from the metro station to the zoo is basically flat, and if you get off here at the Woodley Park station, the walk to the zoo is uphill. So I think in previous videos I might have incorrectly said that the walk from Cleveland Park to the zoo is downhill. It's not really downhill, it's more like flat, but that's a lot better than walking up the hill from down here at the Woodley Park station. That's also the reason why I am doing today's walk in the order that I'm doing it, why I'm starting up at Cleveland Park and heading towards downtown rather than the other way around. And starting to get some drops here already, so we'll see how long I can make it before it starts pouring. Oh, and by the way, I need to give credit where credit's due, because when I posted about doing this, a few people commented on YouTube and on Facebook and said, wow, what a great concept. And I did not invent this concept. I actually stole this. I borrowed it from Chris Rainey from Yellow Productions. If you watch his video about DC, one of the tips in his 20-minute video is to just go for a walk. And he says, I like to walk the metro lines, just, basically follow the metro line above ground rather than underground. So I thought I'd give it a try. Could be a fun thing to do. Now, the red line, the stations are kind of far apart. If you did this in another city, like if you did this in Paris, we probably would have already passed 5 or 6 stations already instead of just the one. All right, let's catch up on the comments here, on the chats here. So MKE asks if I have any hostel recommendations now that Hostelling International closed due to COVID. Unfortunately, I don't really recommend hostels. There's a lot of variables involved in those that I find are difficult to sort out, so I don't really do hostels. Sorry about that. But if you go to triphacksdc.com/hotels, you can find my hotel recommendations there. I know that's different from a hostel and maybe not what you're looking for, but that's what I've got. So sorry about that. And Kanisha says, I loved staying in this area. In my opinion, it was convenient and the metro stop was an absolute plus. So it's good to know, good feedback, as I try to decide whether to continue to include this area in the Trip Hacks DC recommended hotels guide. There are several new hotels opening this year. In 2022, I believe there's at least 5 or 6 new hotels scheduled to open in DC, and about half of them are in the NOMA area, so that's the area around the NOMA metro station. And that is not currently one of the recommended areas on the hotels guide. And the reason for that is because, at least until recently, it was kind of an office area, not really a lot of places to eat. And so it just didn't seem like, given all the other choices that were out there, it didn't seem like it was worth including on. But I might change that now that there's all these new hotels opening up in that area. So if you have stayed over by the Noma metro station, let me know. I'm curious to know if you agreed with me that there wasn't enough to eat nearby or whether you liked it. All right, we are about to cross the big bridge back over the Rock Creek Park. Hopefully I have enough signal to make it over this bridge in one go. And Eduardo, Happy New Year to you too. Kanisha is watching from Tampa. And let's see, the Marcus G says the biggest football stadium in the UK is Wembley and has 90,000 seats. What's the biggest in the US? All right, someone else with access to Google can surely figure this out, but my guess is that it's a college stadium. Not sure which one, but some of the college stadiums are completely massive. And Marlowe's, hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly, good morning, or for you, good afternoon from Amsterdam. Went to DC 21 years ago and hoping to come back this year or next, depending on COVID, combining it with New York City. The channel is providing a lot of inspiration. Excellent, excellent. So New York City and Washington, DC, in my opinion, an excellent combination, especially if you're coming over from Europe. My one tip is don't do too few days in either place. So a lot of Europeans, what they do is they try to do the entire East Coast in too short of an amount of time. So I've given tours to plenty of folks from Europe who are only in DC for, say, 2 days, and that's just not enough. So when you come, try to give yourself plenty of time so that you don't leave and feel like you missed out on a lot. I would do at least 5 days in New York and at least 5 days in DC. So hopefully that's helpful. Glad to hear that you're finding some inspiration. And Juan K. Leal, hopefully I said that correctly, will be in DC for 4 days. Excellent. And the channel has a lot of important info about tourists for what to know. Happy to hear it. Greetings. Hope you have a good trip from Guatemala. Jay Stewart says FedEx has a capacity of 82,000. And Spencer Anderson says Michigan Stadium has the largest seat capacity at 107,601 seats. So I knew it was a college stadium. I just didn't know which one. Thank you for everyone for doing the research on that. Peter Hedberg says, I really enjoyed walking the High Line in New York. A really nice walk. Yes, definitely. So Peter, I don't know if you've seen it yet, but a few weeks ago, I did a collaboration with the Megan Daly, and I don't remember if the High Line was in the video that was posted on Trip Hacks DC or on the Megan Daly, but the High Line was her recommendation. I believe it was her recommendation for an underappreciated view. Could be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure it was the best underappreciated view, she said, was the High Line in New York. So if you haven't seen it yet, highly recommend that series. There's one video on my channel, one video on her channel, especially if you're going to be doing both places. All right, almost to the end of the bridge. So Connecticut Avenue, it crosses over the Rock Creek Park several times. You can see the park down there. There is a horse down there. Not sure if you can see it from this angle, but I am not going to get too close to the edge and have a mishap with the phone. But as you can see, the Rock Creek Park, it's big, and it's basically just a bunch of woods. Now this part up here, this is more of the urban part, so if you go for a hike in the park, you're going to find more people up here simply because more people live up in this part of the park. But if you want to do that hike in the deep woods, you can go a few more miles north from here. And you'll find it feels like you're in the woods, even though you're still in the middle of the city. Okay, Gina T says the Courtyard in Noma was super close to Metro and fast food places, but didn't like the walk to Trader Joe's. So probably not going to add it onto the recommended areas quite yet. But with all those new hotels opening up this year, maybe for 2023. Jay Stewart, good question. How far from the National Mall am I currently? I would estimate, I would guess I'm probably about 2 miles, maybe about 2 miles away. So I'm not going to go all the way down to the National Mall today. So once I get to the Dupont Circle Metro, I'm going to turn and leave the red line and go to a final stop by viewer request. You can probably guess what it is once I get closer to the Dupont Circle Metro. I'll give you a hint though. It was included in the Trip Hacks DC podcast episode called Secret DC. So if you listened to that episode where I interviewed Joanne Hill, the author of a book about kind of hidden gems in Washington DC, she did talk about this one. And people have been curious about it, so I will be stopping there in a little bit. All right, Bat Dog says that they like Taquerian, one of my personal favorites. If you can get to Taquerian, I do recommend it. It's very good. And LC says, any best hotels in DC? So LC, head over to triphacksdc.com/hotels, and you will see every one of my current hotel recommendations. But I will be revisiting that list soon, probably in about 2 weeks. I want to get it updated by the end of January. So what I need folks to do is, if you have been to DC and you stayed at a hotel that you really like and think deserves to be added to the recommended hotels list, leave a comment on this video, leave a chat, send me a tweet. There's like a million ways to reach me, and tell me about that hotel and what you liked about it, because I don't stay in hotels in DC because I live here, and it would be silly to spend my money staying in hotels. So I'm relying on everyone who visits, everyone who comes on a Trip Hacks DC tour to give me feedback about their hotel so that I know what's worth recommending. So if you've been here before and have any favorites, let me know. Let's see, Peter Hedberg says, MB Stadium in ATL, 70,000 seats for the Super Bowl. An experience I will remember forever. I imagine attending a Super Bowl is something that is quite memorable. All right, Kenesha asks my thoughts on Yours Truly. So Yours Truly is a hotel that is like a new concept where they're trying to get locals to go hang out there in addition to being a hotel. It's like a hangout spot, and I actually haven't been in it yet, so I can't personally comment on it. But for a long time, that hotel was called the Renaissance Hotel Dupont Circle. And then they rebranded it to the Wink, which I found super weird branding. Never really got that. And then either last year or the year before, they rebranded again to Yours Truly. So maybe this year I'll get a chance to go hang out there and I'll be able to comment on it from personal experience. But as far as location goes, it is a good location. So that would be part of what I consider the Foggy Bottom. It's like right on the edge of Foggy Bottom and Dupont Circle. But there's some other hotels a block over that I consider in the Foggy Bottom area. So either way, you can get to the Metro pretty quickly and easily. So good location. And Jay Stewart says, stayed at the Doubletree by Hilton in Crystal City on my only visit. Outside of town, but had a metro station close by and lots of stores and restaurants. So Crystal City is one of my recommended areas. If you don't want to stay in town, Crystal City has lots of hotels, so you can check that out. I don't think I have the Doubletree on there, but if you think it's worth adding, Jay, let me know. And Kenesha says, my thoughts exactly. Oh, so you did stay at the Yours Truly. Okay, good to know. And Alex says, I personally stayed at the Citizen M. Not for everyone, but like how close it was to the mall and the techie things in the rooms. So Citizen M, if I recall, is a European brand. Not sure what country it originates from, but I have not stayed at a Citizen M. I know when I have traveled to Europe, I've seen that they were options, but they only recently started opening up Citizen M brand hotels in the US recently, so I haven't actually experienced one myself. But it seems like, yeah, they're going for that techie vibe, that hip vibe that maybe some people are looking for and other people would find obnoxious. Some people really just want a plain hotel. They just want a simple hotel that's close to stuff and a good place to sleep. Other people, they really like all that special hip stuff. All right, now speaking of hotels, over here up on the left, on the other side, that is the Washington Hilton. You may know it from a more derogatory nickname because of what happened here in the 1980s. But it's definitely an old school hotel, been around a long time. It's not really anything fancy, fairly plain, but good location. Now, Jay, you were asking how close I am to the National Mall. If you look straight ahead, you can see the Washington Monument off over there. So probably about 1.5 miles to 2 miles off. That's my best guess. All right, looks like we're getting lots of good comments here on hotels. This is really good info. Okay, Dave Wheeler is planning on staying at the Crown Plaza in Crystal City. Okay, another Crystal City there. And Bat Dog says the Capitol Hilton is a great location and always at a good price. Okay, that is definitely a good location. Can't really comment on the price, but it's like 2 blocks off of the White House on 16th Street. And Bobby Planzer, good to see you there, my friend. Happy Sunday. And Jana stayed at the Citizen M in DC in August. It was clean, modern, and perfect for one person. Also close to the Metro, would stay there again. That's 2 votes already for the Citizen M. And one of the hotels that I know is opening up in Noma in 2022 is a Citizen M. So I guess they're doing some things right, that people like it. So votes for the Citizen M there. And let's see, Jay Stewart liked the Crystal City location, views of the Pentagon and Reagan Airport, and a revolving rooftop bar with great views, shuttle bus to the airport, and Crystal City shopping mall. I'm surprised that revolving restaurants are still around, to be completely honest. I feel like that's a bit of a relic of the past, but I guess if people are still going, then they'll still be open. And Peter Hedberg stayed close to Virginia Square, close to a metro station. So I was just over there recently. In the old Ballston Mall, they have opened up a new food hall. Food halls are like the hip new thing now. And so I remember I used to go over there. The Ballston Mall was like an old dying mall. It was a pretty depressing place. And so when I heard they were redeveloping it, I didn't really have high expectations, but I did go over to that food hall. I don't know exactly what it's called. If someone wants to Google it, I would appreciate that. But it's at the old Ballston Mall, and it was surprisingly good. So I may consider adding that to the recommended areas, but it's a little bit farther away than some of the other spots in Virginia. That's why I haven't added it yet. Okay, Gary Sorensen likes the Hyatt Regency near the Capitol. July 2019, 100+ degree weather. And it worked well for us near Union Station. So I'm trying to think, is that the one on New Jersey Avenue over there? There are so many Hyatt branded hotels nearby that I can never keep track of which is which. And Jay Stewart is due to stay there in August. So good to hear a positive review from a fellow viewer. Yoshi's Productions. Good morning, Yoshi. All right, I'm going to try to be very careful crossing the street up here because this is a bit of a tricky intersection. We're getting fairly close to the Dupont Circle metro station now. And I know this area tends to get a bit busy with people coming off the metro. And it's been about 40 minutes since I started, but if you've just tuned in, welcome. My name is Rob, a tour guide and the founder of TripHacks DC. And there's at least 40 of you tuned in, and I don't think 40 people have all introduced themselves yet. So if you are watching and you haven't yet said hello, go ahead and leave a live chat and let me know where in the world you're tuned in from and what the weather's like today. Because it sounds like a lot of parts of the world it's cold and snowy, not here in Washington, D.C., but I am curious to know. All right, Yoshi's Productions changed their channel name from Yoshi Elevators. Why'd that happen? Why the change, Yoshi? Yoshi was a winner of a TripHacks DC t-shirt on the Yellow Productions live stream that I participated in last year. Chris always gives away some merchandise at the end of his live streams, and so I said I would chip in on that one. Yoshi was the winner. All right, about 2 more blocks till we get to the Dupont Circle metro station here. And Trish Vix from San Jose, California, 34 degrees and sunny, just above freezing it sounds like. And Jay Stewart, thank you for the super chat, my friend. Very much appreciated, as always. And Yoshi wants to know if Metro finished the fare gates. I think that is meant to say yet. The answer to that is no, not quite yet. So they started changing them out. Some stations, they've changed them out. So the Gallery Place Chinatown station, they are switched out. The stations that I mostly use, they have not changed them out yet. Gina T says Ballston Quarter. Yes, that is what it's called. Thank you, Gina, for your Google assistance. Ballston Quarter, that's the name of the food hall that I quite like. I was pleasantly surprised how good that is. So if you stay out in that area, you will eat well. And Ms. Southern Gal just moved from Tennessee, works in DC, but lives in Alexandria. Excellent. Dolcezza over here on the right. One of my favorites. Every time I walk past one, I always have to say that. And Arlene is tuned in while on a run. That is impressive. Multitasking to the extreme. From sunny but chilly Orange County, California. Went to DC last July and can't wait to go back. Happy to hear it. Hope you can make it back soon. I know that's a long distance to travel over from California, but always happy to hear that you had a good time. And yes, Gina T confirming it is called the Quarter Market at the Ballston Quarter. So I have a few photos on my phone from when I ate there, but you can look on the website to see exactly which restaurants are over there. And Alex is from Cincinnati, Ohio, getting colder. Time to go somewhere warmer. That'll happen in the winter. And Muthoni, sorry if I mispronounced that. Greetings from Nairobi, Kenya. It's 19:30 hours here. Let's see, what is that? Is that 5:30 p.m.? Or is that 7:30 p.m.? And very warm, 22 degrees, which I assume is in Celsius. And Yoshi Productions is from Massachusetts, would like to come back. Fairly short plane trip to get to DC. Dupont Circle always has a pretty good farmer's market. If you're here on the weekend, get some good coffee, get some good treats, some good snacks. I'm gonna not walk through because it does look a bit busy today, but you can see it from the perimeter here. These farmers markets are always a mix of actual produce, actual farmers' products, and baked goods, coffee, other treats. Hiro from Japan. Good to see you there, my friend. Haven't seen you in a while. Hiro. I was just thinking about Japan because I was starting to think ahead to the National Cherry Blossom Festival, which will be starting in about 2.5 months. All right, so straight ahead, this is the third metro stop on our Red Line walk. This is the Dupont Circle station. So it's taken about 45 minutes to walk 2 stops on the Red Line. This would have taken about 5 minutes to ride it on the train. But I'm curious, what do you think of the concept of walking a metro line? Like I mentioned at the beginning, I stole this idea from Chris from Yellow Productions. So if you think it was a terrible idea, then you really have to go over to his channel and make your thoughts known over there. But if you like it, I will happily take credit for doing it. Okay, Yoshi's Productions asks, how's Circulator? Circulator is just fine. I've ridden Circulator quite a few times lately. Just as good as it's always been. And Dominic from Baltimore, Maryland. I don't see you do a lot of walking. Not sure exactly what that means. I do quite a bit of walking. Maybe you mean I don't do live streams that often. I do them about twice a month now. I'll probably reduce that down again in the spring, assuming that tour business is better this spring than it was last spring. Last spring was a bust. Completely lost spring break. And if you want to know all about that, by the way, I haven't even advertised this yet. I haven't posted on social media or anything, but a brand new episode of the Trip Hacks DC podcast came out yesterday, January 1st, and the title of that episode is Washington, D.C. tourism coming back? And I did my best to answer that question. The answer is it's complicated, and I needed an entire 40-minute podcast episode to give you the answer because it's not as simple as yes or no, sadly for me. But if you're curious, you can head over to triphacksdc.com/podcast. You can listen on the website, or if you have a favorite podcast app, you can search Trip Hacks DC and hopefully find it quite easily that way. But if you do go over to triphacksdc.com/podcast, I put links to all of the most popular podcast apps. So there's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Pocket Casts, Overcast. Not sure what else there is. There's like 10 of them total. And let's see. Catching up on the comments here. Yoshi's Productions says it's relaxing. And Bat Dog said, when I lived there, I did that all the time for exercise and helped me learn about the city better. I agree. So sometimes just going for a long walk is a fun thing to do. And you can see stuff that you don't get to see if you're underground in a tube, in a tunnel. All the stuff that we saw today, you wouldn't have necessarily seen if you took the metro 2 stops from Cleveland Park to Dupont Circle.
Hey, Mommy.
And Hiro says, thank you for thinking about Japan. I know in Japan, well, depends exactly what part of the country, of course, but your cherry blossoms bloom a little bit later than ours here. So on average, ours bloom right around the first week in April, but you never know exactly when they're going to bloom. They are not really possible to time. And Jay Stewart says this is a great way to see different areas of the city and would encourage me to do more walks if my feet can take it. My feet can definitely take it. It's more a matter of squeezing it in with everything else going on. And Marcus G says I must sometimes miss the quieter walks from last year. Yes and no. So yes, when I went to the National Mall in June 2020, and I was the only person at most of the monuments, I was just blown away. And I told everyone who lives here that they got to get out and do this because it's not ever going to be like that again. And I was right. It has not been like that ever since. On the other hand, I gave very, very few tours in 2020. I think less than 10 total in all of 2020. And you can go on the TripHacks DC website and see what a tour costs and do that math and figure out how bad that was. So, do I miss the quieter city? Yes, sort of, but that's not sustainable. So I'm more glad that it's over than that it happened. And Bat Dog, I already listened to yesterday's podcast. Good to hear it. And Peter Hedberg says minus 9C over here. And time to get something to eat. Enjoy your dinner, Peter. And Gina T also likes walking the metro lines. Nice to see what we miss when we're doing the underground train route. So Gina, or Jay, or anyone else, since you like the concept, since you're voting for more of these, tell me which metro lines or sections of metro lines you would like to see, because there's lots of choices, and some of them easier to do than others. I probably cannot do the Silver Line way out in Virginia. That's not going to be pleasant for me or for you as a viewer, but if you have any particular parts of the metro that you would like to vote for, go ahead and vote now, or leave a comment if you're watching this video after the fact. And Yoshi's Productions wants me to do a walk from Shady Grove to Glenmont. So basically you want me to do the whole line, the whole red line. That would take a long time. I'd have to use Google Maps to find out exactly how many miles that is, but that is not something I could crank out in an hour. Walter's World, good to see you there, my friend. Thanks for tuning in, Walter's World. And Muthoni asks, has DC experienced any, comments just flipped, any snowfall? Nope, not yet. We have received 0 inches so far. So the question is, will it happen overnight tonight? Some of the models think it might, some think it won't. I'm not a meteorologist, but I know a lot of people are rooting for it because we have not had any yet. And like I said, if you noticed, I do not have the winter gear on today. This is the rain jacket because it is rainy and wet today. We've got the summer baseball hat. No winter hat, no gloves. It's probably almost 60 degrees out here, Fahrenheit. All right, Marcus G, we're all glad you're still here and things are picking up. Yeah, I'm glad too. I survived the worst of COVID, right? But if you listen to the podcast episode, things are definitely not fully back. Walter's World has an idea here. I should do the walk as a B-roll with music over the top and some voiceover and saying what the sites are and label them. That's not a bad idea. I did something similar. The only time I've done something similar to that was last year when I did the Cherry Blossom Tidal Basin Walk, where that was about 1 hour. It was mostly just me walking around, and then I did voiceover after the fact. I don't know if I put music on that, though. And Kabuter Wesley, best wishes, you too. Coming up on 17th Street here. This restaurant over here on the corner always does a Christmas tree. And you might have seen, if you can notice who's on top there. She did come over here, I think on Christmas Eve, to look at the tree. And Jason Moore asks, what website shows events happening around DC? So there are a few of them. I don't really follow events, to be completely honest, because I just don't really have time for that. But I know there is an Instagram account that has become extremely popular in the last year. The old school ones like the Washington Post and the Washington City Paper, I think they still have something, but I feel like that Instagram account that I'm blanking on what it's called right now is probably one of the more popular ones. But unfortunately, I know about the big events, right? So I know about the Cherry Blossom Festival, Independence Day. I do not know about like a small art show happening at a little theater or something like that. So unfortunately, that is not my expertise. I just don't have enough time. I had a roommate about 10 years ago who used to do for DCist, back when it was volunteer run. She did the events for DCist, and I saw firsthand how much work it is to curate events. It is so much work, and that's the reason why most of those people who do them, they burn out so fast. They do events, they curate these lists, and then, you know, they might last for a year or two, and then eventually they kind of give up. Because life gets busy, and doing that stuff for free is kind of a thankless job. Walter's World, thank you for the reminder. Give this video a thumbs up if you're enjoying it. All right, Yoshi, ask your trivia question. Curious to know what this is going to be. And Kenesha likes it, would like to see more. Vote for a spot of the Metro, Kenesha, so that I know what you're interested in. And Walter's World says I look fall-esque. I agree. This is a rather fall-like day. Without the leaves, of course. Most of the leaves have fallen down already. And okay, good. Walter's World remembers the cherry blossom video. Well, it's good that you liked it, and I have been wondering about doing something similar to that. I'll probably do another cherry blossom video again this year, probably in a similar style. Ah, yes, Evan Cortez, the Cairo, the tallest building in DC. I've been thinking about doing an entire video about the history of the Cairo, because even though I have a video about the myths of Washington, D.C., and the height limit is included in there, I guess a lot of people haven't seen that video, so perhaps an entire commentary about the Cairo is in order, so that everyone knows when they come to D.C. why we have a height limit. And no, it does not have anything to do with the Washington Monument. Kenesha, yes, has confirmed it is called Clock Out DC. It's on Instagram, so that you can go there for events. And Yoshi's Productions, here's his trivia question. What's the longest metro line out of the blue, orange, or silver? I guess the question for me, Yoshi, is, are we talking miles end to end, number of stops? What are we talking here? Gina T has no preference. Any of the metro lines would be good. And Dan says perhaps walking the orange line from RFK into through town. Yeah, I was thinking about that too. Great minds think alike. That's one that would go through the Capitol Hill neighborhood, which is already one of my favorite spots to walk. And Kenesha says all of them, to be quite honest. So that means I got to figure out, okay, so the orange and silver line in Arlington, that's easy. The green line in DC, that's fairly easy. Orange line could be in Virginia or in DC. I feel like the part in Virginia might be more interesting because fewer people have seen that. All right, Yoshi's Production says we're going by stops. I'm gonna guess it's the red line because it loops all the way up through Maryland. So that's my guess, is the red line, but I honestly have zero idea what the correct answer is. All right, we've almost reached an hour, and I've almost made it to the final bonus stop. Nobody has guessed what it is yet, which means that everyone's homework is to go listen to that episode called Secret DC with Joanne Hill, where we talk about some of the hidden gems in Washington, D.C. And it's over at triphacksdc.com/podcast. All right, Mike knows what it is. And let's see, Juan asks, are there any retro video game stores? There might be some in the suburbs, but I do not think there are any in the city. And Marvlo wants the yellow line from the mall to U Street. Okay, that's a good choice. That could also be the green line. All right, so here we are. This is called the Barbie Pond at Avenue Q. They always dress up these Barbies for the seasons. They got Barbies, they got Kens, they got all kinds of stuff. And you might think this is extremely creepy. You might think this is excellent art, but it's definitely something that you don't see that often. So here's the Instagram handle. Go ahead and pop that in on Instagram if you want to see more, see some of the previous iterations of this. But they've still got the Christmas Barbies up. We got Barbie and Ken hanging from the stockings over the fire here. And then, not exactly sure what they're doing down here, but it's not the famous monuments and memorials that you're going to stop at when you come to Washington, D.C., but if you're into the hidden gems, that's one of them. All right, Yoshi says, I'm playing his trivia game wrong. I'm supposed to guess between the blue, orange, and silver lines, in which case I'm going to guess the silver, because that one goes out the farthest into Virginia. So that's my guess. Otherwise, we've reached 1 hour. We beat the rain, and I'm going to switch over now to the Trip Hacks DC Insiders Extended Walk. So if you are an insider, there is a link in the description of this video. You can click on that and join me for the extended walk. If you are not yet an insider, you can sign up at any time and you will get instant access to the extended walk. So check out the video description. There's a link. If you're on a desktop computer or a laptop, there's a join button that you can press and get to it that way. If you're on a mobile device, iPhone, something like that, I think you have to use the link. And let's see, go ahead and wrap up the comments here. So, Alex wants to do a walk around the sports venues. That is not a bad idea either. We could do Audi Field, Nationals Park, and Capital One Arena, all on the green line. Not a bad idea. Thanks for tuning in, Mike. Jay Stewart, thanks for tuning in. Enjoy the NFL games today. And Karen McGinn, good to see you there. Happy New Year. Trish Vix, thank you for tuning in. And Gary Sorensen, of course, as always. If you are a Trip Hacks DC insider, give me about 5 minutes to close down this live stream, restart my phone, and start up the next live stream. And then we shall begin. But thank you everyone else for tuning in and voting for future Metro walks and everything else. And as I often say at the end of all of these videos, enjoy your trip.